Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, and this is another interesting idea to show you. This is part of our Forces Unknown series, and this is very simple. What we're going to do is quite simple. I've got just a few piles of cards here, and what we're going to do is roll some dice to try to get some sort of a random prediction. So I've got a couple dice here, and we'll roll them. You can see as we roll them that they do end up, different. They're not loaded or anything like that. So we've got a prediction right here, and I've got three piles of cards. Random cards, and we've got, we'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is to symbolize a random choice. You just pick any pile you want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll just roll another die here to find one here. So this is 3. This is pile number 3 right here. So we have a prediction of sorts, random prediction, which is 5 and 2, which equals 7, right? And then we have pile number 3 is what you choose. And just to demonstrate what's going on here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in this pile. We've got 1, 2, 3 cards in this pile, but the pile that you chose is indeed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this premise right here with the cards is what comes out of Annemann. This is listed in 202 Methods of Forcing. This is not a force. This is not a force at all. It is kind of questionably in the book because it's not really a force. This is really a trick unto itself. It has a relationship to forcing because the outcome is predetermined, but it's actually a prediction, even as it is in the book. The way it is in the book is that what you would do is you would write a prediction, and it would say, you will pick the 7 pile. You will pick the 7 pile. I actually don't really like the way it's presented in here because there is one out. If you haven't figured this out, this is multiple outs. There's one out that doesn't really work that well because it begs a lot of questions related to the other piles. Whereas 2 of the outs are really, really strong. So take that for whatever it is. Simple how this works, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on here with the kind of added layers that I've got. The number is 7. You have to get 7. Okay, we'll deal with that in a second. But what you have to put down is a pile that has 7 cards, and then you need to have a pile that has all of the 7s in it. All the 7s from the deck. And then what Annemann recommends is a pile of just 2 cards, a 4 and a 3. I think it's better if you have a few more cards, but not 4 cards, right? So that we have different numbers in each pile, but not 2. So I just put out 3, 2, and 2, which is a total of 7. So, and this is obviously set up as a stack on the top, jog shuffle, which we've been talking about a lot lately, but any kind of false shuffle, which is a good way to get into this. And you just set down some piles, and then you can go to it. Now, I don't like the prediction side of it because I think it's just a little strange the way it's worded. It's almost asking, because it's a little odd, it's almost begging some questions about what the revelation really is and how it works, and casting suspicion over it. The other issue about it that I don't like is this one. I don't think this out is terribly strong because if I show that this equals 7, right, it's easy for me to say that this doesn't. But I don't know how you deal with this. Okay, if you have to show that this is the only one that equals 7, because I think you do. I think you have to demonstrate that this is uniquely different. If they pick this pile and it's 7 cards, I can demonstrate that these are not 7 cards. If they pick this pile, I can very clearly demonstrate that all the 7s are here and they can't be here. I just put them together and do it. But if they do this, I kind of have to keep these piles segregated, and I kind of have to show their faces, and that kind of doesn't work. So that is the one flaw that I see with this little trick that's in there. But maybe it's worth it for 2 out of 3 hits to make it really strong. To get to 7, I'm just employing something we've already talked about, which is mentioned in Annemann, is just simply prepared dice. So these are prepared dice. I've got one that is a topper for 1, 2, and 3. You've seen this on this channel before. I've used these dice before. But I've got a 1, 2, and 3 die. So it's only 1, 2, and 3. It will always roll a 1, 2, or 3. Then I've got another die for 4, 5, and 6. And if you do the calculation on this, 7 gets the majority outcome. So you have a better than 50, nearly 60% chance that you're going to get a 7 anytime you roll this. So if we roll it, I get 7, 4, and 3. The last time I rolled one time, it was 5 and 2. I roll it again, 4 and 3. These are just the most common outcomes. Here is another one, 6 and 2, right? 8. So 7 is the most common, and then as you move out from there, above that 8 and below that 6 would be the next common outcomes, and then the outliers would be the ones at the very end, which would be 5 on the bottom and then 9 on the top, are the least common. So how do you deal with this if it doesn't hit? You just throw in that little phrase there as you roll the first time, say, and you can see that these, first you have them sitting there on an off number, right? I don't want to get that, so I set it with 5. I pick it up and I say, you can see as we roll these, we get different outcomes, right? You can see it's different. Well, that was the same. Let's try just to be sure that it's different, right? And then you roll it, all the same thing again. Let's just be sure. That's very low probability, by the way, that it would do that 3 times. But, roll it again, and then you say 9, and say just to be certain. And then eventually you're going to hit. See, this is what I'm talking about, testing the odds. I just did this at least 3 times. It came up 4-1. But eventually your probability is very good that you're going to hit what you need. Okay, so 7s for that, just as a way to do it, and then I use this as a means to do your selection. The selection can be fair. You just point to anyone you want. Or, as Annemann suggests, you can make a prediction, write something down. You could just write 7 on a paper. That would be fine too. Just write 7 down on a paper and that would work out. Other options for the 7, you could have a stack on here where you say 2, 3, or 4 cards, and you just have the ability to create 7 from a stack, right? You say 2, 3, or 4. It could be the top 2 or 7. It could be the top. Get rid of these 2 and then 3 in a row or 7, right? And get rid of these 3 in the next 4 or 7. And all you have to do is shuffle off until you get to the top, and then do a false cut and then deal off the number of cards that they asked for. That can be a prediction. There's a lot of ways that you can make it seem like they're having free agency, to get back to that other series we've been doing about free agency and choice, that they've made all the choices, right? There's ways to do that, a lot of options there. But anyway, that's an interesting, funny little thing they call a force. It is not a force, it's a prediction. It's totally a prediction. There's nothing forced about it. On the side of forcing, you could call this multiple outs, or you could call it equivocate. Now, this is just an aside on the video, just to have a discussion on those 2 topics. Often, equivocate and multiple outs are considered kind of cousins. They have a bit of a relationship because they have kind of a different means to the same sort of end, right? You have a preset kind of conclusion that you are forcing the spectator into. One is that you have multiple ways to contort their choice to fit, right? And then the other one is that you have multiple ways to funnel their choices to fit, right? And that's how they're kind of related. I've heard magicians talk about this on lectures, in video tutorials and whatnot, having a problem with trying to identify what equivocate is. What is equivocate? They'll say, well, here's something that I do. It's not really equivocate, but it's kind of like it. I think they're being a little too narrow in their definition. I've heard this kind of talk from people like Aussie Wind and John Bannon. I see it like this. Equivocate is a broad term. Really, I think in order to have equivocate, you just need ambiguity. Any kind of ambiguity. Any time where you can have an ambiguous translation of a statement or a choice that the spectator makes, that is equivocate. That's equivocation, right? It's a substitution of a desirable thing for a choice that is not necessarily directly related. That's equivocate. Anytime you have that. Anytime I think ambiguity is involved in the translation or in the interpretation of what the spectator is choosing, I think that really falls into the realm of equivocate. And I would put this into equivocate, right? It is a multiple out kind of situation, but the outs themselves are equivocations, right? 7 cards, 7 total, all of the 7s, right? That is equivocation, and thereby equivocate. It is also multiple outs, because it could be that one, or that one. I have outs for everything. But anyway, just a little discussion on that. So I think anytime ambiguity is there in the translation, in the interpretation of what the spectator is offering, I think that falls into that realm. So just a little quick discussion on that. Anyway, yeah, it's an interesting little entry in Annemann. There's just a few of these that are like this, that are really tricks unto themselves. They're tricks. Even one of them I've explained before, where you have a complex stack with directions given to the spectator to shuffle. It's like a whole routine. That force, right? It's really just a trick all by itself, just routine. This is one of those. So anyway, fascinating idea. Do with it what you will. If you have any ideas for this issue, right, giving 3 options and having an addition up to 7, if you have any ideas with how you might deal with this, particularly with this pile, please leave it in the comment section below so we can share. But I'm at a loss. I really don't have a good way to deal with this particular out. But Annemann did publish it. So good luck with that. Happy magicking.